Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special Christmas music-themed episode of the Musical Innertube. I'm Don Rooney. The music you're hearing is O Little Town of Bethlehem. It's performed by Andy Mowat, and it's one of 33 songs featured in the 2022 Joy to the Burg Christmas Music Compilation.
I'm John Timpane. This time of year, in a number of cities across America, special holiday music compilations are put together to benefit charities.
Here in central Pennsylvania, where I live, it's Joy to the Burg, local musicians performing Christmas music, with all the money raised going to Christian Churches United to support homeless shelters in the area. Talking with us today about Joy to the Burg are Steve Schwartz, who is Director of Development for Christian Churches United of the Tri-County area, and Doug Wilburne, Volunteer Chair of Joy to the Burg 2022, and one of the leaders of the band No Last Call. That's one of the bands featured on every one of the editions of Joy to the Burg, dating back to its first one back in 2019. Welcome, Doug. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Steve, let's talk a little bit about why this album was put together in the first place and how it came to be.
Well, there was a gentleman in Harrisburg who was concerned about seeing folks sleeping downtown around his church. His name was Sheldon Jones. And he started thinking, what could I do about this homelessness issue in Harrisburg? Started talking to a few friends of his who were musicians, and they hatched this idea to put together an album of Christmas music and sell it and raise money to help the homeless. Then he went to the pastor of that church, of his church, and said, who should I partner with on this? And we work closely with that church at Christian Churches United because it's a hub for homeless folks downtown. And so his pastor put him in touch with us, and over some tacos in March of 2019, we agreed to work on this project together, and it was a very fun project to get kicked off that year.
Yeah, tacos, the traditional Christmas food.
Yeah.
Doug, what does it mean to be the honorary chairman? What were your responsibilities in pulling together this album for this year?
Well, it's first of all an honor to be involved with this project and to be heading it up because it's just such a great effort, both in terms of the ilk of performance talent that gets involved with this. And then, of course, the ultimate goal is to raise money to help people that are much less fortunate than us, especially during the cold winter months. And the responsibilities really run the gamut from, finding the musicians and getting them recorded and their songs lined up and permission rights and all those sorts of things, getting everything produced, creating a retail distribution system, getting everything sold and collected, and we also have a couple of live shows that we'll probably be talking about later in the broadcast here on December the 11th at the Englewood in Hershey. So it's quite a big project. Luckily, we do have many volunteers that help out in various phases of the project. So we're lucky there.
I noticed that there's a lot of different artists on this album, and I'm just wondering, how much lead time do the bands need to get the performances recorded for the album? How early in the year do you start talking about this album? It seems like it's something that would take an awful long time to put together.
I bumped into one of our artists last night, and he was telling me about his plans that he's starting to work on a first song for next year. So it's really turned into a year-round project. I mean, obviously it accelerates as the year goes on, but in January, February, we're kind of debriefing and talking about, what went well, what did we learn? But we're pretty much in the spring starting to work on what are we doing this next year? How are we going to recruit bands? And so for me, Christmas is not, I kind of laugh at these people. I don't want to hear about Christmas until the day after Thanksgiving. I think about Christmas every day all year long, but I love it, so it's fine.
That is a good question. In fact, Steve doesn't know this, but I was actually speaking to a lady just yesterday who had met at another event, and she's in the PR world, and she wanted to know if she could help out with Joy to the Burg. And I said, well, we're pretty much in full gear here for this year, but let's talk about next year. So we made a plan to get together to talk about how she might get involved next year. And then one other point that I would make, an important component of this project are our sponsors. they typically represent a large corporation or business, and they have a planning cycle and so forth. So we really need to start that effort pretty much at the very beginning of the year to reach out to those folks and make sure that they're thinking of us as they are going through their budget cycles.
Now, Doug, is it difficult to recruit either bands or sponsors, or do people come to you?
Well, the answer to that is that the project has really grown over the years in terms of its credibility and its reach and people being familiar with it. And we were very lucky this year to be able to partner with the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame organization, which is headed up by Brandon Valentine. And they agreed to go ahead and curate this year's album for us. So the upshot is that we had probably somewhere in the vicinity of 50 performers who contacted us and submitted their contribution for this year's album. And we really couldn't put out an album with that many bands on it. So we did have to cull it down somewhat, and we ended up with the 33 tracks that we have on this year's download album.
Steve, the money is going to help shelters that you set up, and it's been very successful over the past 4 years in raising money that you desperately need to keep these shelters open, right?
Yeah, so the very first year, 2019, in September, we learned that the only women's overnight shelter in Harrisburg that existed at that time was closing. Let me define that term a little bit. There's a network of shelters in Harrisburg that operate year-round. We all work together as a community on those. But in the winter, we try to open a couple additional winter overnight shelters to have additional sleeping space on cold winter nights, and specifically places that don't have a lot of program requirements. There are some people who might avoid coming into programs that have a lot of requirements for Bible study or drug and alcohol treatment or things like that. And sometimes it's due to mental health issues or whatever. So we want to have places where people can just come in and sleep. But the only women's shelter like that was closing. And so our organization pretty quickly said, we'll take that over. We'll figure out a way to open a new women's shelter to replace that. And, our executive director said the reason he did that was because he knew that Joy to the Burg was happening the first time ever. We were going to be raising some additional money, and we would have some seat money to get going. So Joy to the Burg really saved that shelter. And then it's helped us continue to operate that shelter. The shelter's just opened on December 1st. Just very thankful to be able to open both of men's and women's shelter. The women's shelter was new for us that we opened 4 years ago, but we have been running a men's shelter for many years, and this funding really helps us continue to run those shelters, but then also do a lot of work with the folks we meet in those shelters to help them get long-term housing.
Now, I'll throw this out to either one of you, Steve or Doug, to talk about the added attraction of this year's album. You've added some artwork to that. Is that right?
Well, yes. We came up with the idea of involving the visual art community to add to the listening art community. And Alice Ann Schwab over at the Susquehanna Art Museum curated 8 paintings or artworks, 8 pieces of art from local artists, which became then the basis of 8 holiday greeting cards, which we are also trying to sell and raise money for this effort. And as luck would have it, one of our artists is an illustrator who's rather well known around Harrisburg. And I'll just turn it over to Steve to tell that part of the story.
Yeah, well, Brian Gephardt is he's the cartoonist for the Burg magazine, Burg. He's also worked in various nonprofit roles in the community, very community-minded person. And he submitted a couple different designs, and he said, pick the one you like best for the greeting card. And one of the designs was a picture of Shay Quinn, who is one of the area's leading musicians. He's been a rock star here in the area for the past 40 years. Just one of the most successful musicians locally, continuing to do what he's been doing all those years. And he was very influential in helping to get Joy to the Burg off the ground. I know that first year, people would often turn the CD over and say, wow, you got Shay Quinn? Wow, you got No Last Call? Those were 2 of the bands that that were just really helped us build credibility that first year. So we decided that the Shea Quinn, the Santa Claus picture maybe didn't fit the greeting cards quite as well as one of his other designs, but we ended up deciding to package it with the album so that when you buy it in a retail outlet, instead of just getting a little card with a code on it, it had a little more substance to it. And it decided to be the first in a series of collectible artist prints for Joy to the Burg. So we're going to do this every year now. Next year, we'll have someone else. Brian's agreed to help us with that. So, we'll see who it is next year. But yeah, if you buy the download album in a retail outlet, you'll get this collectible print that you can print 5x7 watercolor Shea Quinn.
Yeah, Doug just held it up, a picture of Shea Quinn Santa Claus, which is pretty impressive.
I must say, there are some pretty impressive bands on this collection. Not just No Last Call, Doug, your band, but also the Badleys, the Jelly Bricks, and many more. Just wondering, does having well-known bands like these help sales of the album?
Well, no question about that. In fact, a little story, and Steve just kind of talked about No Last Call, adding credibility to the album. It's interesting because when we were first approached about this back in 2019, band co-founder Ted Reese and I discussed whether we ought to get involved in the project or not. And we said, well, who else is involved? And we find out that Shea Quinn is going to be on it and Steve Rudolph. And we said, we don't need to know anymore, that, this is a credible effort and we'd really like to get involved. And so we've got lots of, great names from the area. A duo called Dandy, a lady by the name of Karina Rose, Leap of Faith, the Greg Platzer Band. I'm sure Steve can mention a few more.
Susquehanna Corral, Stuart Molina, which hopefully we'll talk about Stuart's song a little bit later. A lot of great local artists. And if I could say something else about No Last Call. You asked earlier, are bands coming to us to be on this album, or how much of an interest is there to be on the album? Something that surprised me that first year was I felt like we were asking this big favor for bands to help us out. And I remember specifically with No Last Call, they've got this great reputation in the community. I think you just won simply the best band in the area in the Harrisburg Magazine. And so we felt like it was this great honor to have you on our album. But I was surprised how excited No Last Call was to have a song on this album. And them saying, this is the first time we ever got to record something. This is our first produced recording. And so it's been interesting how this has become, it's beneficial for what we do to help the homeless, but it's been beneficial for the music community. It's been beneficial for the bands. And I love scenarios like that are win-win, where everyone's kind of gaining some value out of it or some benefit.
Let's talk about some of the music that's on here. The album leads off with a tune by the Jelly Bricks, and it has a special added attraction, and that is that our old friend Glenn Hamilton is doing double duty. He is playing guitar and doing the lead vocal on that. How did that come about, that that song leads off the album? It's a remake of a Tom Petty song, right?
Yeah. So, Glenn is a pretty accomplished performer. He's played in bands locally. I think he has a solo album that I think you can track down online. He's a really good singer and musician. And so I asked him at some point, I said, you've been involved and been supporting the project the last 3 years, but what if you actually contributed a song this year? And, talked about an idea or two. And then he got back to me and said, what I'd like to do is I'd love to do a full-blown rock song. I ran it by the Jelly Bricks, asked them if they would back me up on Tom Petty's Christmas All Over Again, which this is the 30th anniversary. That song came out in 1992, in the fall of 1992. And, the Jelly Bricks are one of those bands that we had, wanted to get on the album before, but it just never worked out. So it ended up being this great confluence of events that, Glenn got them into the studio. They made a really fun song. They made a really fun video to go along with it. And it was just natural to be our lead kickoff song for the album.
Okay, let's listen to that. This is Christmas All Over Again by the Jelly Bricks featuring Glenn Hamilton.
time. Yeah, I kind of missed them. I just don't want to kiss them now. And it's Christmas all over again. Yeah, again. And all over town, little kids gonna get down. Christmas is a rockin' time. Put your body next to mine. Underneath the mistletoe we go. We go. Whoa, whoa. Hey. Everybody's singing, all the bells are ringing out, and it's Christmas all over again. Yeah, again. And right down our block, little kids start to rock. Christmas is a rockin' time. Put your body next to mine. Underneath the mistletoe we go. We go. Merry Christmas time. Come and find you happy and thereby you're fired. I hope you have a good one. I hope mama gets her shopping done. And it's Christmas all over again. Oh baby, it's Christmas all over again. Oh yeah. It's Christmas all over again. Let's see. I want a new Rickenbacker guitar, 2-Fender Bassman, a Jelly Brick songbook, a xylophone.
So, Doug, besides the inclusion of one of your songs with No Last Call, what's another song that you like on that album?
Well, I'm very partial to the song that Stuart Molina has contributed this year. I actually approached Stuart. We were talking earlier about how early we get started on the project. I had approached Stuart back, I believe it was last March or April, and asked if he would ever possibly consider making a contribution.
Let me interrupt you, Doug, and say to those listening that don't know, Stuart Molina is the music director and conductor of the Harrisburg Symphony Orchestra. So I will say that when I saw his name on the list, I was expecting some huge orchestral Christmas song, and that's not what we get. But go ahead with your story, Doug.
That's not at all what we get, but you're right about Stuart. I mean, he is very well known, Tony Award-winning musician in his own right, and we're very lucky to have him as the maestro of the Harrisburg Symphony. And in similar fashion, we were very lucky that he eventually did say yes. His only hesitation is that he has a lot of projects that he gets involved with, including directing other orchestras around the country. So he said that his time was limited, but he'd be willing to do it. But he asked if I would kind of take the production responsibilities, and he needed a 5-person combo to accompany him on this song that he thought would be appropriate for the album. And the name of the song is Hanukkah in Santa Monica. It's a Tom Lehrer song, and he actually did an additional verse It's quite funny. And so we got together a group of guys that are all pros in their own right. Bill Kurbetsky on trumpet, Greg Stroman on the trombone, Andy Herring playing an amazing clarinet, Brandon Valentine, who is, we mentioned earlier, the head of the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame on drums. And then finally rounding out that group is Morgan Stambaugh on upright bass. And this song is in true klezmer style, and it's just a delight.
It is. Let's listen to it now. I'm Spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica by Stuart Molina and the Capital Region All-Stars.
I'm spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica, wearing sandals, lighting candles by the sea. I'll spend Shavuos in East St. Louis, a charming spot, but surely not the spot for me. Those eastern winters I can't endure 'em, so every year I pack my gear and head out here for Purim. Rosh Hashanah I spend in Arizona, and Yom Kippur way down in Mississippi. But in December there's just one place for me. Amid the California flora, I'll be lighting my menorah like a baby in its cradle. I'll be playing with my dreidel, spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica by the sea. I'm spending Christmas snorkeling by the isthmus, awaiting Santa with the mantas in the reef. I'll spend a Wally way out in Bali while I'm doing some eschewing of the beef. Perhaps Sorrento or fair Perugia. I've always thought that Italy's the place for Vesak Puja.
For those of you that don't know, Vesak Puja is an important Buddhist holiday.
I'm spending Kwanzaa with Tony Danza and Ramadan in the Bahamadans. But in December, there's just one place for me. Amid the California flora, I'll be lighting my menorah. I'll be wearing my sunblockers while I'm gorging on my latkes. Here's to Judas Maccabeus. Oh, if he could only see us spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica by the sea.
Steve, you also have a song that you're involved in, and we'll get to that in a minute. So aside from that song, what is your favorite song on the album?
And now you're putting me on the spot. And
all right, what are your favorite songs? We can do more than one.
What's funny to me, and this is going to sound like a marketing answer from me, is I'm amazed that we have 33 songs, and I don't feel like there's a weak link. Like, I listened to the whole thing, and I've been listening to it a lot since October, since we were starting to get song drafts in. And, you'd think by now you'd be like, there's a couple weak links here. Let's fast forward through them. But I really love the whole album. I mean, a few that stand out to me. I mean, the Little Brother Band song, which is called Waiting on You, is a really fun original number that they wrote.
Dear love has been waiting on you. Holly, tinsel, mistletoe, they won't see you through. You've been waiting on a heart that is true. She's been waiting on you. Well, it could have been the eggnog. Sometime that'll do you in. But I swear I saw him riding high in the sky with 8 little reindeer friends.
Holly Serio's song Epiphany is just gorgeous.
So I'll strip the words, expose the soul, let the message shine, the Christmas story told. May your every day be like this melody. No need for words to express its peace. Its peace.
Stereo Glow does a Joni Mitchell tin river, which they mixed with in the midwinter, which is beautiful.
In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind may moan. I stood hard as iron, water like a stone.
Seasons is a Celtic band that does an original number that's beautiful.
One boy, one girl, one road that leads too far away.
One night, one star, one babe, no bed to call his own. Too young, too poor, too late to find a place to stay.
Tonight, two hearts, too full of faith to go astray.
All the rock numbers are a ton of fun. There's just a lot of good music on this album.
Let me ask you about one that struck me. I really, really enjoyed listening to it, and that is Bob Geiger's cover of Please Come Home for Christmas, an Eagles song. He really does that well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Bob is a friend of mine at Rotary, and he's newer to the area. He's the vice president of sales for PA Media Group of Penn Live, and he moved to this area right before the pandemic shutdown happened. So, he's this business leader, but really felt like he wasn't getting to know anyone in the community. So about a year and a half later, when things started to open up, and he started coming to Rotary meetings, and he asked someone in the Rotary Club, how could I get involved in something volunteer-wise? And he's a musician. Used to have a band, traveled the Jersey Shore back in the 80s and 90s, a rock band, till his wife told him at some point he had to get a real job. And so he got connected with Joy to the Burg last year. It was too late in the year to submit a song, but he helped us with some sponsorship raising and some marketing and brought Penn Live on board as a sponsor. And this year he headed our whole sponsorship effort, raising money from local sponsors. And, again, I asked him, I'm like, you got to submit a song? And I think there was a little bit of like, is that okay to do? Like, am I not enough in the community? Like, please do so. And so he went over to one of the friends of the project, John Scarpato, has this recording studio in his house, and just recorded the vocals. And then John brought in all these different players to play the song, and then Bob didn't hear the finished thing till it was all done, but he just nailed it. It's such a fun song.
Yeah, he really did. It's a good job. Let's listen to that now. That's Please Come Home for Christmas by Bob Geiger.
Bells will be ringing, the glad, glad news. Oh, what a Christmas to have the blues. My baby's gone, I have no friends to wish me greetings once again. Crowds will be singing Silent Night, Christmas carols by candlelight. Please come home for Christmas. Please come home for Christmas. If not for Christmas, by New Year's night. Friends and relations send salutations. Sure as the stars shine above. But this is Christmas. Yeah, Christmas, my dear. Ooh, it's the time of year to be with the one you love. So won't you tell me you'll never more roam? Christmas and New Year will find you home. There'll be no more sorrow, no grief and pain. And I'll be happy, happy once again. Oh, happy. Christmas once again.
Doug, let's talk then about No Last Call's contribution to this. You have contributed songs, your band has contributed songs to all four of the Joy to the Burg albums so far. What made you pick the song that you did this year?
Well, this year we wanted to try to be somewhat more serious about our song. We have a reputation of high energy, and we come in and we're kind of a commando band, and we make a lot of energy and sound. And we wanted to try to get a little bit more introspective. And so one of our arrangers, Jim Nottinger, came up with this very, very nice arrangement of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, a song from the 40s. Actually, it was 1943 when Judy Garland introduced the song in Meet Me at St. Louis, the show. And so, as much similar to what Steve was saying earlier, that the first time we did a recording was a new experience for us. And playing something as touching and mellow and intricate as this song turned out to be was a new experience for us. But we really wanted to make something that sounded really nice, and we think we were able to get that done.
I think so. Let's listen to that now. No Last Call and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Steve, before we move on to the song that you wrote, let's talk about some of the other music on there. Is there any other song that you'd like to bring people's attention to that's notable?
Well, Tony Wayne does a really great instrumental version of God Rest You, Gentlemen, with kind of a Latin feel to it. He's just a really talented guitarist and arranger and has been on the album every year. So that's just a really fun song.
Yeah, it sounds almost salsa, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I really like Dandy's song, The Magic of Us All. There's this line in the middle of Dandy's song where it says, for a couple of hours each year, we're the people that we always hoped we would be.
If you just pause to notice, you'll see the magic of us all.
Act a little nicer. We smile a little easier. For a couple of hours out of the whole year, we are the people that we always hoped we would be. Act a little nicer.
Snowflakes start to fall as that plays on TV. Hope it blankets things so thick that it cancels everything.
And that's, there's a bittersweet pop in there, but it's also, I love that moment of, maybe 7 to 10 days before Christmas, where it just feels like the world starts to slow down. Everyone gets really kind to each other. People are just in this great spirit, and you kind of wish that could last all year long, but they kind of capture that moment in that song.
So in past years, this album has been released as a compact disc or CD. Why did you decide to release the album this year as a download rather than a CD?
So coming out of last year, we were just having more conversations with more and more people that were saying, I don't own a CD player anymore, but I'll buy the album and stick it on my shelf just to help the homeless. And, times were changing. I think Doug did some research, and only 9% of all new music sales are via CDs these days. And it's also expensive to produce a CD. There's kind of two downsides of the CD. It's expensive to produce, and it's also limiting in terms of the number of songs you can have. And so we decided after a lot of discussions to it's a bit of an experiment, but let's transition to being a download-only album this year. We'll be able to save a lot of money on the production, taking a risk on will people still buy it, when they don't have a physical, thing to go with it. But then it also freed us up to, through the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame, put out a public call for songs and know that we could go over 19 or 20 songs, whatever we might have been limited to last CD. And so that's how the decision came about.
Most of the people are getting their music through downloads nowadays anyway. That's pretty...
Yeah. We are getting a few people, especially older people, contacting me and saying, I'm not quite sure how to do the download. Can you help me? And so I've been navigating that with a few people. Don't tell anybody, but I'm making a CD little set for my mom so that she can listen to it. But, don't say that publicly. Ha ha.
Oh, yeah.
Just joking.
Okay. Well, we won't do that.
But it's just a few people that, for that, I'm just burning 2 CDs and I'll have to listen to it on our home stereo system.
The mystery of the zip file, which, it confounds everybody.
Yeah.
Steve, let's talk about a song that's very personal to you. You've written one of the songs on this album. Tell us about how that came about and how it was recorded.
Yeah, I should probably note that I'm not a musician. I'm a lifelong lover of music, and I had worked in the homelessness community my whole life, and I just love music so much. And so this project has been such a joy for me because it brings together these passions in my life. Last year I was at our concert, and I had just thrown this little graphic up on the screen that said there's no place like a home for the holidays, little Christmassy looking graphic to be on the screen between bands. And as I was sitting there that day, I just thought, I feel like there's a song there. It's just kind of a beautiful way to kind of take that the Perry Como song, There's No Place Like Home for the Holidays, and you add that A in there, and it really speaks to a sense of place, the importance of a sense of place to call home. And so I just started rolling around, that idea in my head, and I thought, we've been doing this album for a couple of years now. We haven't had a song specifically focused on, homelessness or someone experiencing homelessness. So I wanted to write a song about that based on knowing so many people in my life who have experienced homelessness who maybe never would have expected to experience homelessness. So it's a story of someone that, goes through becoming homeless later in life where they never foresaw that happening.
And how did you get, you got Peter Rogan to record it. Is he a friend of yours? How did you get that done?
No. So I started working on a song, and then I was going to Nashville in July with a friend for a concert at the Ryman Auditorium. And prior to that, I learned about the opportunity to do a songwriting workshop with Phil Madeira. Phil Madeira is a Grammy Award-winning songwriter. He's a member of Andy Harris's band. He's played with a lot of other artists over the years that I love. I've kind of followed his career since about 1990. His family's originally from E-Town, and his uncle was a friend of our family. And so I remember being over at his uncle's house in 1990. He played some music, and he's like, my nephew's on this album. You should get it. So I got it, and I've just kind of paid attention to him since then. But I'd never met him. But when I saw the songwriting workshop opportunity, I called him, contacted him via Facebook and said, I'm going to be in Nashville on this day. Would it work? And the dates aligned. And so on Saturday, July 2nd, I sat in his living room, and we actually wrote 2 songs together. I sent a couple of things over that I had been working on, and he said, let's start with this one. I said, well, that's not the important song. The second one's the most important. He said, well, this one's easy. Let's finish this first one together. And then the second song was Home for the Holidays, the one that I really wanted to focus on. And then it was pretty cool because 12 hours later, I went to this concert at the Ryman, and they have this extended encore, and they brought out some big, people to be like extra musicians at the extended encore. And the first one was Phil Madeira. So I was like, I was sitting in his living room 2 hours ago writing songs. Now he's up on stage. And so it was just a really cool experience. And he took, I think I had the basis of something, but he took it to a whole new level because he's a professional. And I just made it into a really great song, I think. So then we were looking for someone to record the song, and we had talked to about a few people locally, but then I contacted Phil at one point, and he said, I have this friend in Reading, Peter Rogan, who he's just true blue Central Pennsylvania. He works in a steel mill during the week. He plays music on the weekends. He would be great to this song. So he kind of just put us in touch. So we just kind of did a cold call with Peter. I did not know him beforehand, and pitched the idea to him, and he said he would do it. And we're just so thrilled with the rendition. I think his voice and his style and his look is just the perfect fit for what we were going through with the song.
I remember bedtime, being in my daddy's arms. He'd carry me upstairs and tuck me in. We'd snuggle, read a story as I drifted off to nod. This will always be how I remember him. He'd pray for the hurting and the people who were sick. Give us this day our daily bread. And before he'd say amen, he'd finish up with this: thank you for the gift of a warm bed. There's no place like a home for the holidays, the gift of a place to call home. There's no place like a home for the holidays, to be safe, to be warm, to be known. Took it all for granted, There was nothing to be said as I dreamed within that cozy nest. I could not see a future without a roof over my head. It's a long way in between more and less. There's nothing colder than cold shoulders when you're looking for a hand. But every now and then somebody smiles and looks me in the eye as if they understand. But I've been living on these streets a long, long while. There's no place like a home for the holidays, the gift of a place to call home. There's no place like a home for the holidays, to be safe, to be warm, to be known. As the years passed, so did Daddy. He went before his time, and I wonder if he sees me down and out. I've got a stray dog I call Laddie. He's the one thing I call mine. He reminds me of what love is all about. There's no place like a home for the holidays, the gift of a place to call home. There's no place like a home for the holidays, to be safe, to be warm, to be safe, to be warm, to be safe, to be warm, to be known.
Doug, a lot of these performers are going to be live on stage. How's that happening?
Well, we're very excited about this year's events, which there are two. They will occur on December the 11th at the Englewood in Hershey from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. There will be an easy listening holiday brunch, and tickets for that are $25, and it includes a buffet brunch with that. And we will have, as I said, kind of easy listening music. The event will be hosted by Deborah Pinkerton of ABC 27, and will feature the music from Holly Serio, Bob Geiger, Karina Rose, Amma Joe, the Frost Duo, Canaan's Land, and I believe we'll hear from Peter Rogan with Steve Schwartz's song as well. And then in the afternoon, a music extravaganza. We're calling it a music showcase, starting at 3 o'clock, running in for the next 5 hours until 8 p.m. And that show will be hosted by Glenn Hamilton of the River 97.3. And we will have music coming from the likes of Peter Rogan again, Loco Lobo, which is the band that Sheldon Jones has. We'll hear from Tony Wayne, the Little Brother Band, Greg Platzer, Shay Quinn, the Jelly Bricks, and of course, No Last Call. So a lot of music coming your way at those events. The holiday showcase, general admission tickets are $25 for that as well. And there are also a very limited number of reserved seats available at $40 a piece.
And now, do people pick those up at the gate, or can they get those ahead of time?
You can order them ahead of time at joytotheburg.com. and we'll direct you to the ticketing site, which is through the Inglewood. But I just want to say that those shows, if you haven't been to the Inglewood, it is such a fun venue. It's a beautiful venue. It's got a world-class sound system, and it's a 5-hour show, but there's food and drink service. So you can grab a table. You can come in at 3:00, order an appetizer and a drink, and then a couple hours later order dinner. And it's just a fabulous holiday event. So I hope you can come and join us.
And all that for $25.
And I would suggest buy the tickets ahead of time, because I think that trying to get a ticket the day of is not necessarily a sure thing.
Yeah,
definitely. Steve, how do people get a copy of Joy to the Burg?
Well, first of all, you can go online at joytotheburg.com and click the order button. And if you just want the album download, you can download it directly through our system to your phone or your computer. But we are in many retail outlets locally. So on our website, we have a list of all of them, but the album is for sale at all the Carnes grocery stores in the region. And there's about 30 other retailers in addition to Carnes, close to 50 total if you include all 10 Carnes locations that are carrying the album or greeting cards or both. We on the website, we tell you what each store has. A great place to get them also is the Suspan Art Museum. They're the group that curated all the artwork for the greeting cards. So they have the greeting cards there at Suspan Art Museum as well as the albums.
I want to say thank you to Steve and Doug for being part of this today. And again, we want to ask everybody to go out and download Joy to the Burg, and also to buy tickets to the big live show at the Inglewood in Hershey on December 11th. You will not go wrong in either case, and you will hear some fantastic music, holiday music, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to download all those songs from Joy to the Burg and then have them playing in the background as you sip your eggnog next to the fire watching the Christmas tree.
One thing I just want to add is that 100% of the sales of every greeting card package, every album package, every album download goes to the programs, because all the project costs have been covered by sponsors. So every dollar from your donation to buy these things, and I have some people that say, I don't need one more Christmas album. That's fine. You can just give a $20 donation to help the homeless, and by the way, we'll throw in the album for free. How about that?
Steve and Doug, thanks a lot for being here. And thank you for listening to the Musical Innertube. You don't have to live in central Pennsylvania to enjoy all the terrific music on Joy to the Burg. No matter where you live, just go to joytotheburg.com and download a Christmas album that you listen to again and again. And make sure to get some Christmas cards while you're there. If you do live in central Pennsylvania and want to experience the music in person, go to joytotheburg.com and follow the link to get tickets to either the brunch or the music extravaganza at the Inglewood in Hershey on December 11th. Just know that your enjoyment of this fine music will be helping someone who doesn't have a home this holiday season. Oh, and while you're at it, have a Merry Christmas from all of us here at the Musical Innertube.